In the last video, I explained that as a key supporter, I often set up a meeting with an employer after they have made a job offer to the person I supported at the interview. This meeting gives me the opportunity to help me come to a final decision as to whether or not access to work is needed, and, if it is, in what areas. I use what I call my 95% rule, and I want to share this with you now. If you're the person applying for the job or the person who's just been offered the job, I hope you find these guidelines as useful as the other people watching this video. If you apply my 95% rule to your own situation, this will help you to decide whether or not to use access to work for some additional support when your new job starts. That's additional support on top of the usual help and guidance you'll get from your employer. Whenever I am involved in supporting somebody with hidden disabilities into work, if I'm convinced that the job fit is 95% to 100% right, then I don't apply for access to work funding. I put everything into context. I start by considering the journey from home to work the new employee will have. I move on to consider the job itself, including the hours, the lines of supervision, and the training. I look in detail at all those areas I highlighted in the last video. This is the job fit, and if it's 95% to 100% right, then I consider there's nothing that access to work would add that the employer wouldn't put in themselves. Plus, I recognise the increase in self-esteem and confidence the new employee will feel by being completely independent in the workplace from day one, albeit with a little extra supervision from management to ensure everything gets off on the right foot. So that's when I don't apply for access to work funding. But if my access to work emoji is anything below 95% smiley face, I do apply for access to work funding, even if it's just to cover a little mentoring support in the first few weeks of the job. Jobs where I believe the fit is about 60% to 80% right are ideal for fairly substantial access to work involvement. The hours I apply for, and don't worry, we cover this in another video, will address the 40 to 20%. Jobs with a 50% to 60% fit might be challenging, and in my opinion, jobs below a 50% fit will almost certainly not work out. Any amount of additional access to work support will never put right a job that was essentially the wrong fit in the first place. I've had a few of those over the years and will happily admit I got the percentages wrong. At the time of the interviews and subsequent meetings with the employers, I thought I was in the 65% territory. When the jobs actually started, within the first week, for reasons I could never have imagined before this, I was looking at figures no higher than 35%. For both the jobs I'm thinking about, we brought these to an end relatively quickly, but still managed to get some positive learning for the young people, their parents, the employers, and for me, of course. But let's get back to jobs where you feel the fit feels good. Access to work can ensure you can turn good into great. At the conclusion of my second meeting with the employer, I mention access to work, and that it will have, almost certainly, no financial implications on the employer whatsoever. I explain that there will be a few administrative procedures to follow, but they are straightforward and that I will be on hand to explain everything. Some employers have heard of access to work and some haven't, but I've never had any employer express any concerns about using it. So, how do we use it? I give you most of the knowledge I've built up over the last 25 years in the rest of the videos in this series.